All right, and we're live.
What's up?
What's up, man? I'm Antarah Leet. I'm sitting here with Phil Rebello. We're here in the Dartmouth studio, which is pretty exciting. And we're just kind of killing some time before one of our guests joins us later. How's your day been so far, Phil?
Day's been all right. I've just
Anything?
been prospecting,
Okay.
making calls.
You do a lot of prospecting. I'll give you that.
For sure. I mean, you have to
I
to
agree.
survive in this business, right?
It's, I think sometimes people try to survive without doing it. I've definitely been guilty of that before, but it really doesn't get you very far. I mean, deals might fall out of the sky here and there, but to consistently do this, you can't without prospecting.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, I've been there. I've dropped the ball at times. I think that it's easy to do, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to prospect. It's not, if it was easy, I think everyone would do it.
If you work a corporate job and you have a manager, breathing over your shoulder every day and you have a certain quota
Mm,
and you're getting paid a salary,
yeah.
it's a whole different ball game.
I mean, people do talk about like not enough people work real estate like a 9 to 5. And I think that's a very important comparison because when you have a boss breathing down your neck, you don't really have the choice. But all of a sudden, when you get to give yourself that slack, it's surprising how often we don't do what we would do if we were told to do it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've been in this business long enough. It's just you see all kinds of people.
Of course.
A lot of the time, there's part-timers that know that they're part-timers, and that's all they want to do
Yeah.
is do this as a side gig. Make a few $1,000 every now and then when
Mm-hmm.
a friend or family or something springs up. Hey, I mean, if you know that that's what you want and you do it that way, and maybe you have a day job that pays the bills and you have a decent salary, I mean, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, I
But
don't think there's much wrong with that, but doing that and believing that you'll get the results of a full-time agent who's dedicated, I think can be a little almost delusional sometimes. It doesn't make sense.
yeah, I mean, where I was going with that is like, if you're going to commit to doing this full time, you better really like set yourself up for success and really hunker down because it's not easy. Like,
Absolutely.
this is not an easy business to, just succeed in unless you have a ton of connections and people just swarm to you. But even then, like, it's just not going to be enough. Like, you need to be prospecting every day. You need to treat it like a 9 to 5 sales job. At times, like a boiler room, just
Yep.
sit on the phone all day if you have nothing else to do.
Yeah. Truly, if you don't have any showings to go to, if you don't have any open houses, if you're not writing up a contract, what are you doing?
Right.
It's an important question. Now, let's say someone's starting, they're getting into the industry. Do you think that doing it part-time at all is just a stupid idea, or do you think sometimes it's necessary to do that if you're getting your feet wet?
Well, I mean, that's how I started. So I guess, I'm kind of biased toward it being an okay idea.
Okay.
I don't,
So you started part-time and then transitioned?
yeah, I don't recommend, getting licensed while you're doing whatever else you're doing, another job or whatever, getting licensed, then immediately being like, I'm going full-time real estate from now on, 100% commission.
Yeah, sounds very stressful.
Yeah, like I would not recommend that. I mean, when I broke into the business, I had a really good job.
Mm.
I was working for Blue Cross Blue Shield
Okay.
up in Quincy, and I had a good sales job. I'd been there for about 5 years, and I was doing well. I mean, I could have just stayed there and done well and kept climbing the corporate sales ladder and been there still.
I remember being surprised when I first met you. Like you said, hey, I came from like a really good corporate job, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I like spoke with some others, like, no, he really had a good career, kind of. So I think it speaks to your confidence in the different potential when working for oneself versus working for an employer. But you still have to treat it like you are your own employer, and I think that's where a lot of people drop the ball. But going back to just transitioning into full time, how long do you think that process should take? I mean, I know, and I think you know, you don't make money your first week, your first month, sometimes your first year when you do this. Is there a set amount of time you recommend that people take before making that leap, or does it depend?
I mean, I don't have a set amount of time. I mean, I'll use, my career as an example. I mean, I got licensed in December of 2016, and then 2017 joined Revolv, and I've been here since. And I was just grinding,
Mm.
working leads all year basically,
Wow.
and not really closing anything for most of the year. But I was still at my full time job,
Okay.
So I was at the full time job all year, but I was working real estate, after hours on the weekends. I would do showings on the weekends. I'd
Yeah.
meet people at open houses. I'd meet people after hours. It was hard. It was a difficult
Oh, it's a grind.
lifestyle. But then suddenly, come like the fall of 17, it was like I had like 3 or 4 closings at once,
Mm.
and I was having a hard time juggling the corporate job with the real estate sales or the prospecting and the grind involved, because I'd be in the bathroom like hiding out in the middle of the day on a call about negotiating a home inspection or something, and it was like
I know that feeling.
it would turn into like a 15-20 minute convo, and then I get back and my manager's like, where have you been all this time?
Yeah.
And get back to work.
Yeah.
And so it was becoming harder.
Of course.
And then I had those deals closing, and I was suddenly like, wow, this is great. Like, I've never seen this much money at once, basically.
Of course.
And then I had another couple of deals in the pipeline that were set to close, and they had some pretty lucrative earnings that were coming to me. And I said, now's the time. Let me,
Yeah.
take the leap. I mean, I've told this story before. I tell it all the time, but I mean, that's really how it went. Took the leap, never looked back.
Yeah.
Never got another job. Been selling real estate full time since.
Well, sometimes, and we have ups and downs, and as most people in this industry have, but even during the downs, it's funny to me how I also have never wanted to go back to that, just working for somebody else. It's like, I know it's just so fundamentally different. I had a very similar experience where I was hiding in the bathroom, answering phone calls, texting frantically. And I won't name the company, but I worked for a very large tech company, and we would do a lot of tech support for people. And I remember the exact moment where I was cleaning the gunk off of someone's headphones because they kept complaining that the headphones were broken. They kept coming back, I want new headphones, I want new headphones. I couldn't be like, hey, you're just kind of gross. So one day I was just like, enough's enough.
Sounds gross.
It was disgusting. I put on some gloves, and we had these special tech Q-tips. I just remember being in the back,
Earwax.
cleaning it off of their literal headphones. And I was getting a call in my pocket for a $650,000 deal, which was crazy to me. And I just remember, like, what am I doing? I'm not answering this guy's call, but I'm cleaning gunk off of this jerk's headphones that keep coming in yelling at us. And yeah, I had to. It just all kind of clicked at that moment. It was like, yeah, I can't keep doing this. But to your point, I already had a couple deals under my belt. My feet were wet. I kind of was building some momentum. I don't think I would have been able to do it if I had just stopped cold turkey as soon as I heard about real estate and got licensed. I don't think enough people are aware of the learning curve, and then also the amount of time it takes to establish trust with your clients and really get them to the point where you have a full enough pipeline where it'll replace your income.
Yeah.
That's something that doesn't get spoken about enough.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, people really underestimate the grind required to do this full time.
Agreed. Why do you think that is? Is it because of like social media just showing all these people like, oh, I just showed a house today, here's my commission, and just making it sound way too easy?
Yeah,
I think that's what it is.
yeah,
personally.
for sure. Now, I mean, the way
Yeah.
that video has really grown
It's everywhere.
over the past few years, and just how like clickbaity things are, and how
Big time.
it's just in your face.
I mean,
like-
that's part of why I joined, honestly. I mean, I had some people that told me, oh, you're good at talking, you could do sales. And then I started door to door, and I was like, oh, I could use the same skills and just sell something way more expensive. But the reason I picked this versus like a stockbroker or something like that was HGTV and all these flashy examples of real estate professionals. And I was like, oh, that's easy. I saw
Yeah.
Ryan Serhant on YouTube, and I was like, oh, I could do that.
yeah.
And I can, but they definitely make it look a lot easier than it really is.
Well, for sure. And I mean, the main thing is how are you going to keep your pipeline full all the time?
Mm,
And that's the hardest part right there. It's how much grind, how many
of
calls
course.
you need to make daily, how much you need to invest in marketing
Yeah.
to keep it sustained, because you could, get your license, have some sphere person, friend or family want to sell
Mm.
their $800,000 house. You do that, close the deal, and you're like, wow, this is easy.
Like, I'm amazing.
Yeah. Good. Like, how are you going to keep doing that
Yeah. Where's
though?
that second deal?
Like, are you going to call that whole neighborhood and circle prospect them? Most people aren't
Yeah.
even aware of what circle
I was gonna say
prospecting
most
is
people don't
from the
even know
start.
what that is exactly.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the most important things for new
Yeah.
agents and agents thinking about, getting into the industry is like you have to grind, and that's the core of it.
Yeah.
And if you're not the one grinding, which is hard to replace the authenticity of that,
Yeah.
of you, if you're good with people and a good potential salesperson, even if you hire people, it's achievable. But
Definitely.
you have to have like a lot of money. Basically, you have to be sitting on a good bankroll to
Yeah.
invest into, virtual assistants or admins that you could build around you. Like if you're coming into the industry with like a good chunk of money, let's say,
Mm,
that you're willing to invest into it, you could basically hire a whole team
of course.
of admins and assistants and pay for leads.
But that's going to be a big investment because making those calls is something that so many people are so afraid to do, and it's so necessary that if you don't do it, you have to pay someone well to do that at a high level.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not really going to see a return, or you need 50 people doing it at a mediocre level.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of the big giants in this industry are able to do now. But I mean, like you said, unless you really are coming into this with just sitting on some cash, nothing's going to replace the elbow grease that you have to put. Is that the word? Elbow grease, sweat equity.
Yeah.
The grind is vital to this. And I also think something that we don't talk about enough is it's also like the right thing to do for your clients half the time. It's for most of these people, it's the largest transaction they'll ever make in their lives. And we almost owe it to them to be calling everyone around, to be trying to sell those things for them constantly. Sure, we benefit from that too, but I think people forget about how important we are in terms of the local economy and society. Like it's a big deal. It's someone's home.
Yeah.
A lot of people just one and done, and they don't really take it seriously, and it's a shame. Do you think that gives us a bad name sometime? I know real estate agent can have some negative connotations sometimes. I wonder why that is.
Well, there are so many people in the industry and continue to jump into the industry even right now in this ever changing market, this
Mm-hmm.
what I'm calling a new market right now, like right now,
Mm-hmm.
high price, high rate market.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
unprecedented.
this is a new market that it's going to adjust a lot of things, including brokerage rosters.
Oh yeah, I think we're already seeing it.
You know,
I mean, we're seeing on the lending side too. I heard some. I don't want to repeat them because I'm not sure, but I heard like crazy statistics of large portions of that industry are just gone.
well, on social media, you see a lot of introductory and welcome posts for
Mm.
new agents and new lenders, but you really don't see the exit posts
Yeah.
for
Farewell.
those same companies. So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah,
That's a very good point.
things are changing, but it's still strong. But it's different now, and I think folks jumping into it now better be ready to grind harder than ever because it's going to take
Of
even
course.
more effort than before. I think the past 3 years have been spoiling a lot of
Absolutely.
agents
Absolutely. Myself included,
and
I think
lenders.
I came into this when the market was just easy. I wouldn't have called it that back then, but it definitely was easy. You could, I mean, sure, we had a lot of buyers, but you put 1, 2, 3 offers in, you're going to get something. Now you can't even get the buyers that have the ability to put an offer in because the
Yeah.
rates are so high. So, but let me transition this into a positive. So if you are someone new, like you said, and you're just jumping into this, there's also a huge incentive for you to be able to get through this because a lot of other people are going to leave. And I think that will just leave you with a much larger market share if you can stick it out through this. So, yes, might be way harder, might be a challenging market for sure. But if you make it to the other side of that market, I think, would you think it would be very much worth it? Like, if you could make it through this, you can kind of make it through anything.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that, coming in at a hard time definitely is, it proves, you prove yourself more,
Yeah.
you know.
I just wanted to mention that because we sound a little negative there, maybe like, oh, this is a scary time. It is, but you can also, I think there's a quote by Warren Buffett to be greedy when others are fearful and fearful
Yeah.
when others are greedy. And people are fearful right now. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's not too much to worry about just yet. I just think that I think this is going to be like a drag. I think
a slow
the
burn.
rates are going to stay high and stable, in my opinion.
Yep.
Just my honest opinion for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any sugarcoat in that. So I don't want to come on to one of these, meetings or podcasts and be unauthentic.
I think we owe it to ourselves and to everyone else. Yeah. This is the reality of the situation. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad news. It just means it requires different actions than a different market.
For sure.
Those who can adapt will do fine.
I think what changes is pricing.
Big time.
I think that's like kind of common sense. I mean, something has to happen with the prices, and I think it's just going to be a slow, gradual kind of change, and we'll navigate it the best we can as it comes. But people have to sell still.
Yeah.
People have to buy. So
life goes on.
We have to find them. So
they're out there. They are.
I'm never going to be someone that gets on one of these podcasts or gets on social and says this is easy or it can be easy. I mean, there's just no substitute for banging calls like all day, basically. If you have nothing else to do.
I wish I could disagree, but I can't. It's so true. And I wish I could disagree because, hey, calls are tough. Sometimes you don't want to hit that call button. But hey, tell me if you find another way that's better than just sitting down and hitting the phones. I'm sure every real estate agent would be like, oh, let's try that. But until that comes up, there's no replacement from just talking to people.
Honestly,
all the time.
Honestly, it's easy.
Once you get in the swing of it, it's not even easy. It's fun. You enjoy the process.
It's easy. It can be fun. You're talking to people if you like people, which you should in this industry.
It's tough if you don't. Yeah.
You should want to talk to people.
Of course.
There should be no resistance to getting on the phone with people in your existing database and calling them, following up with them every now and then. I mean, I spent the whole morning today doing that and having great conversations with people. They weren't making any moves per se. They weren't ready to sell their house. But hey, I called somebody that I've called probably 25 times over the past 3 years. Never got an answer. Today, finally spoke to her.
Wow.
Finally had a good conversation with her. She was so friendly.
Awesome.
She had her house for sale in Seekonk it was, and it expired.
Okay.
And I just been, keeping an eye on it, keeping an eye on her in my database, viewing emails and properties. And I finally spoke to her. And to me, that's such a great feeling. I mean, the only better feeling is for her to say, come on over with the paperwork and let's list the property. But
that's a good feeling.
It's the best. But, well, selling it is the best.
Yeah, the closing table is also pretty nice.
Right. But actually having that convo after that, slow grind of legit, 20, 25 calls over the past 3 years.
Yeah.
I remember, 2 years ago, she had called me back because I'd saved the number under her name, and I went to answer it, and the call disconnected, and I was so excited, and I didn't speak to her for another 2 years until today. That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, let's just pause and actually look at that for a second. The first thing there is hey, it's great you talked to her, but the persistence needed to do that should be commended a little bit, because I'm not trying to toot your horn a little too much here, but
Toot it.
No one will do that. No one's gonna do that. No one's gonna wait 2.5 years. I mean, not nobody, but it's very rare to have the persistence, the tenacity, and the just that eye on the prize of, hey, this is someone I haven't spoken to yet. I haven't disqualified them. I haven't qualified them. I'll keep trying. Takes 30 seconds. What you probably call like once a month, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll do a little like side piece too. It's like, at Revolv we have a great CRM in Boomtown,
Yeah.
so there's no doubt about that. And the way that it shows you how leads and people in the database are engaging and their activity really helps too. So I'll
Huge.
give the CRM some credit on that, because it's kind of always putting it in my face for the
Yep.
most part, as long as you're paying attention and keeping track. So,
That's the
which
thing.
is another, whole other, part of it. But yeah, I had to say that was such a great feeling, because she's like, I still don't know what I'm going to do, but they're, potentially going to put it on the market. And when I do, you'll be somebody I call to come in. So, I mean, that's great.
And let me guess, she didn't yell at you. She didn't say, never call me again. She didn't, any of these things that we're so afraid of sometimes probably didn't happen, right?
Yeah. No, it did not happen.
I mean, I noticed that we have call nights recently, and a lot of people, and it's understandable, but it also isn't. You sense this fear of getting on the phone. You sense there's this hesitation, so something might go wrong. I don't know if it's a fear of rejection. I mean, I think it must be, because I felt that too sometimes. But once you make that first call, you're fine.
Yeah.
They didn't tell you to F off, or pardon my French, whatever they say.
Yeah.
And it goes fine. And even when they do, it's like, haha, next call.
I mean, look, this is sales. Like, you have to become numb to it.
You do.
Like, you don't have a choice. You won't survive in this industry if you don't become numb to the negative BS you're going to deal with on calls.
And
you
almost
just,
the positive as well sometimes.
You just brush it off. I think that a common misconception is like, a lead comes in if you're at a brokerage that lead gens. All right. And you consistently call that person, they finally pick up and tell you to F off. Well, sorry. The lead gen, the funds that were spent for that, probably a waste of money. If you spent them yourself on a Zillow lead, waste of money. Guess what you have to do? Move on to the next lead.
Yeah.
If you're paying for leads in that way, I mean, you know how passionate I am about Vortex Redx. I think that I think that kind of lead generation system is the strongest that you can really work with. Once you switch your mind from inbound leads and paying for leads, or counting on a brokerage for leads. Zillow leads were huge when I first started in the industry. I mean, I'd get them all the time, and they were cheap, and I'd pay for them myself.
They got too huge.
And they were very lucrative.
Yeah.
I think also people don't understand out there how astronomically expensive Zillow leads and those types of leads have gotten. I mean, I used to spend $500 a month in Swansea for like 20 leads a month or something like that.
Wow. Crazy. Now that would probably get you one. Maybe not one.
Yeah.
But.
I might not have been that high at 20, maybe 10 to 15. I might be pumping that up a little bit.
We sat down one day and like looked at it by town, and some of them I remember like the minimum spend you could put didn't even guarantee you a single lead. And I was like, wow, that's
Right.
amazing.
Right. So back to what I was saying, it's like, if you're at a brokerage as a new agent, or as an agent who's been doing it for a little bit, and you're waiting for leads, that's a bad game plan.
Got to go get them.
If you're gonna pay for leads and wait for them that way too, that's not a great game plan either. You need to get on something like Vortex, or the other circle prospecting like Vulcan 7, or does Mojo pull like that too?
I think so. Mojo might. Remine. I know Remine kind of gives you some of those abilities. There are so many options out there. There are so many leads. Even if you don't circle prospect, even if it's just looking up expireds and then using a tool like fastpeoplesearch.com, it's slower, but there are people out there to call, and to wait for a phone number to come to you when there's so many phone numbers out there, And you're really not doing anyone a disservice. It's not the horrible telemarketing that people think it is. You're just having a normal conversation.
Well, to me, being in this business as long as I have, it's like the circle prospecting is my favorite because you're just having conversations with people. I mean, if you're calling FSBOs and you're calling expireds, everybody's calling them.
Yeah.
All the other agents are listening to the, guidance and listening to the influencers online, and everybody's doing that. And that's okay. And it's I'm not saying don't go out and hunt and talk to FSBOs or knock the doors or work expireds in the same fashion.
Yep.
But it's a pretty beat up lead.
It's very saturated. I mean, you go online and you say, okay, real estate script. Let's say you want to learn like how to cold call. The first 10 results guaranteed are going to be expireds and for sale by owners.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. They're people that clearly have expressed they want to sell their home, so it's a little bit easier or less intimidating maybe. But you're also the 400th person that called today.
Yeah.
So.
I think the circle prospecting takes a bit more work in general. Like you really need to farm those and build those up. So basically you pay for something like the Vortex or Vulcan 7 and all the influencers online like Ricky Caruth.
Yeah.
He promotes Vortex.
Yep.
Brandon Mulrennan
Vulcan
promotes
7.
Vulcan 7. Soon Phil Rebello, maybe Vortex. Maybe I'll get a deal off of these
there you go.
podcasts.
I think, hey, referral link in the description below.
Yeah. There's no bias, though. I'm not getting paid by Vortex. I'm just saying it's my favorite.
No, I mean, we've used it
Vulcan
so many
7
times.
too.
Have you?
Yeah. So I think that if you're going to pull those leads like we were last night on our call night, pulled 100 over there in Marion, calling around, we upped the subscription and did the Geo Leads Plus and got email addresses.
That was big.
Now, if you're really committed to success, you make the calls and you manually input, or if you can export into a database, which I don't think you can do. I don't think you can do it, but like directly to Boomtown or directly to something. We'd have to look into it. But maybe you can export the data into an Excel and then give it to Boomtown and they can upload it as new leads.
I didn't think of that. That's a good idea. I know there's
that.
Zapier, which is this like tool that integrates different like platforms, and you might be able to do it through that. But.
Yeah. So you're making the calls. Hey, we got this, house for sale in Marion. We're just calling around the neighborhood and checking in with neighbors, see if they have any friends or family that are interested in this property or, whatever. And we have our scripts that we do. And like, you're not going to instantly, I mean, sometimes we do. We actually did have some decent conversations yesterday.
Yesterday was pretty good.
Yeah. But like, you got to warm these people up. You should take that info and put it in the database, get them on a drip for either their address, homes sold in the area, the same stuff we do for seller leads.
Just stay top of mind.
I mean, that's the real key on top of just banging those calls is putting them in the database, get them on a drip. We know all this. I mean, we know this. Does everybody know this? I don't know. I mean,
the real question, I think, is do they know this or do they just not care to do it? Because I think a lot of it, if you sit down and have any intention to improve your own career in this industry, these things are going to come up. There's no way you're oblivious to the fact that you got to follow up with people. Maybe people don't know about the levels of follow-up required or specific strategies, but I think a lot of it is just, again, that fear of rejection, that fear of like, oh, I'm not going to get a sale with this call. And I've definitely been guilty of wanting that first call to be the greatest thing in the world. Or like, oh, please, I've been waiting for a realtor my whole life. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
It does not happen. It doesn't happen. It's like it's never going to happen almost. I mean, basically, you could call, 200 people today and make no connections.
Yeah. It's just part of the, it's a numbers game.
Tomorrow.
Maybe get one.
300 people on Monday and still not have one signed listing off of any of that.
But you do that every day for a couple of months.
Yes.
You can have a couple listings, guaranteed.
Right. Like you could hop on, one of these dialers or whatever and bang 200-300 calls, for like a week.
Yeah.
And be like, this isn't working. How many people are doing that? Like so many people. I mean, like so many people do that. Like maybe go nuts for a little bit, but it's that consistency. You do that for a year, you're guaranteed results.
Definitely. And
with
I
the
think
right
it's
scripts and the right, conversations and the correct follow up, because you have to tie it all together. I mean, you can't just bang, 100 calls in a day and then expect these people to call you back. They're never going to call you back. You have to put them in a database and you have to follow up with them. That's the second layer.
Yeah.
So
show you're persistent, show you have valuable things to offer, and just show that you're not kind of going away anytime soon. That it's they're gonna have to talk to you.
you know how this convo can just keep going and going,
It
but
can.
it's like you can have a database full of people
And do nothing with it.
and do nothing with it, or you could follow up with them all the time and just be like running around in a circle
Yep.
and not prospecting for new business.
That's a great
Or
point.
You can do it all, which is basically what you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to prospect for new business, put it in a database, follow up with those people, prospect for new business, put it in a That's the cycle. How else do you survive in this business without doing that?
I agree. I mean, I think moral of the story is consistency is key. You can't do this without being consistent. You can't do it without hunting for new business. You can't just rely on the business that's given to you. You definitely got to work it if you get business that lands in your lap. Like, don't ignore it. But that also doesn't mean you get to ignore the fact that when this closes, you're going to need 4 more. So I think just be consistent, stay on top of it, just hustle for a couple of years. I think people, as much as we said they underestimate the amount of work needed, I think a lot of people underestimate, I don't actually have to grind for the rest of my life. Like, you put a couple years of really hard work into this, and we've seen it. And then the business starts coming to you.
If I could, teach my younger self something, it would be to, not get wrapped. If you do get a deal, which you will.
Of course.
You'll get deals. You get something under agreement. You'll help a buyer get somebody under agreement. I would have not been so wrapped up in those deals as they were.
Yeah.
And focused so much on that until it closed.
Yep.
And then closed it and then had no business. I did that so many times, at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Instead of, working, grinding, getting something under agreement. It's under agreement. It doesn't require that much effort in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, very little, actually.
You need some documents signed. If there's a negotiation that comes up off a home inspection, that's a couple of phone calls. Is this and that. In the grand scheme, how many hours there are in a day? The time that I feel like a lot of new people, and myself included when I was new, dedicate to trying to ensure that deal is going to close, and that it takes away from new prospecting and following up with other leads. It's like a killer.
I agree. I think let's close on this, because we said that a lot of people, you won't last in this business if someone hangs up on you. If that devastates you, it's going to be very tough. But the opposite of that is, hey, you get a deal. You also can't be the happiest you've ever been in months when you have what you're supposed to be doing as part of your job. I mean, that's your job, is to close deals. I'm going to reduce it to the ridiculous here, but you don't see someone working in the kitchen cheering every time they flip a burger. It's part of the job. So being able to keep your emotions level, not getting destroyed if something doesn't go your way, but also not taking your eye off of everything else when you finally have a victory you get to talk about. I don't know if you want to call it stoicism or staying even keel or whatever it is, but I think the victors of this market, the winners of this market are going to be the ones who can stay consistent, prospect, not get bent out of shape in a good or a bad way, and just keep their eye on the prize.
That's the key. I don't think it's going to be easy for anyone. Well, I think that people just need to realize that it's been a breeze for a lot of deals the past 3 years, and now we're in a very different market.
Absolutely.
So,
but
hustle and grind, and that's what we're doing here.
Agreed. And it's fun. Truly, once you take out the whole, I don't know, hyper fixation on the market's different, the rates are high, you're like, okay, this is another challenge. Doesn't mean it's impossible. It's not a crazy market. It's just competitive. It was very predictable, I think, based on how rates were before and everything. Take it, adapt, keep it going. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. Well, guys, that was a really good chat, I think. We just went a little over 30 minutes here. If you guys want to hear about anything else, or if anyone wants to sit down and talk with us, talk to the camera, whatever, really, let us know. Any closing thoughts, Phil?
Get out there and get on the phones.
Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, guys. Bye.
Stop recording on that thing. Ooh.